now, so it is now being recorded. And then you might not know, or you may know, Elite CISO runs a very active fitness club and a yoga club. And one of the things that we do in every webinar is we take this stand and attend challenge, right? In yoga, we call it a Tadasana, right? Half Tadasana. So we are going to take that challenge. What we are going to do is we are going to stand during the entire session. So you can see that I'm standing right now. I'm not sitting on my chair and then spending time. So stand, take this challenge. If you accept this challenge, say yes on the chat window. It is a really good challenge. I mean, we sit a lot during lockdown and during office hours, what we do. This will give you a good opportunity to stand and attend the session. So with that, over to you, Chester. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Great.
Great. Thanks for the great introduction. I was not expecting the AIDS Trojan to come up. The original, well, not only was it the first ransomware, it was the first Trojan ever. Everything before it had been a proper virus that infected other files. And the very first Trojan was the AIDS Trojan. So maybe I can be invited back at some future event. I have a whole hour presentation on the man, Dr. Joseph Popp, who wrote that virus, and the fascinating life and story he unfortunately left behind for us with inventing the concept of ransomware. But thank you so much for inviting me. Obviously, I'm sorry I'm unable to attend. I normally do many events like this in person every year, and I look forward to seeing everyone. So hopefully that will change as well in the near future. But I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you today. And so I messed up my, let me just put my slides in share mode here for a moment. I lost the window. There we go. And then tell Zoom to let me share it. But that was a fantastic, and as you can see, I am also standing. So I encourage you all to accept the stand challenge. I work here from my standing desk. My name is Chester Wisniewski. I'm principal research scientist at Sophos, and like a very few other fortunate people, my job is literally to work with all the researchers within Sophos Labs and all the different teams within Sophos looking at malware and threats, and distill that information and share it with the public in ways that enable people to more effectively defend themselves, hopefully. So I often speak to the press. I love speaking with CISOs and IT team members. My job is to kind of take all the information we're learning by studying the threats all around the globe and share that back to the community, and hopefully a way that helps you all understand things better. So what I'm going to talk about today is kind of what we've been seeing so far in 2021, and a little bit of the evolution of how it's changing, maybe compared to a year ago, a couple years ago, or even maybe 5 years ago. I'm not going to go all the way back to the AIDS Trojan per se, but one of the things we're seeing with companies that are being victimized is the threats are changing so fast that they're still focused on what the threat was maybe 18 months ago, and they don't see the new thing coming. They're having a hard time keeping up to date with how these threats are evolving, how fast they're changing. So I'm going to quickly talk about, we know you need to know who we're up against, right? Who is the adversary and what are they doing? And different adversaries behave differently. So we'll talk about that briefly. What skills they've gained and how that's been changing, so you kind of know what you need to be prepared for to defend against them. And then what do we need to watch for? Like, what are signs that this activity is occurring within our networks so that we can act? And one of the big things that would be a theme in this is these attacks are human-led now. They're no longer the Melissa and the I love you virus that you referenced in the introduction, which were automated attacks, right? They were code we could analyze and reverse engineer and understand how it works. Now it's humans taking code and running it manually and doing things with it. So really what we're watching now for are human behaviors that we can identify once somebody's trying to breach or has breached our network. And then ultimately, what do we do with, how do we alter the defenses that we had and adjust them to face this new reality? So who? I mean, who's pretty obvious at a high level, but we kind of need to think about who our adversary may be, depending what business you're in. I'm sure some of you may have customers that are in defense or government, and in that case, you may face a different adversary than if you're a manufacturer or in different sectors. And so it's important to understand what these groups are up to. I put them in three major categories. Of course, here on the left of your screen, you see somebody who's literally a professional soldier who hacks all day. Every nation state in the world has a professional cyber army, if you want to call it that. And some are more focused on offense and some are more focused on defense. But this has really changed, right? If I had been here speaking to you 3 or 4 years ago, the only ones that really had to worry about nation state attackers were people that were in the defense industry or in government typically. A few other areas, maybe some financial institutions, that type of thing. But the average organization didn't have to worry about it. But that's really shifted and changed in the last few years as some nation states are now using native grown hacking talent within their countries in order to advance their economies. And as a result of that, more and more of us are actually falling victim to either directly state sanctioned cyber attacks or at least state encouraged attacks by more rogue states. In the middle, I put myself in the good guy of this category. You've got the hackers, or as I will later call them, I refer to them these days as advanced persistent thieves. And these are the ones we really mostly need to worry about. These are very clever people who know how to break into systems. Many of them maybe earlier in their careers might have been penetration testers. They understand hacking. They're not amateurs, but they're not necessarily part of some Iranian cyber army, right? They're independent people that are just out to steal money from anyone that has it. And then the third category, we still do have a lot of the cut and paste script kiddies, everybody always calls them, right? People who can cut and paste a script or learn something in a forum on a website or Stack Exchange or something, and then try to break into things. Hopefully, most of you are not in a poor enough security situation that that's a real threat to you. Those people are still operating though, and I think it is interesting to keep in mind that they're out there because they often have an impact on our friends and our family and loved ones. And so we shouldn't ignore them because they can cause damage. They're just probably not going to cause damage to our organizations if we have a reasonably active cyber defense. So I'm going to briefly summarize the 4 big nation states that most of us that ally with the non-Soviet, non-rogue state actors, which beginning with North Korea, right? North Korea, they're really active out there. And what's really interesting about North Korea is they seem to be almost entirely focused on disruption and stealing money to get around their sanctions. The sanctions have been devastating on the North Korean economy. It's estimated they stole somewhere upwards of $22 billion in Bitcoin just in 2020. And that accounts for more than 10% of their entire economy. So you can imagine 10% of your entire economy is stolen cryptocurrency. So it's a really interesting thing. I'm sure they won't stop if the sanctions ended, but the point is, unlike any other nation state, we've not really seen nation states specifically just steal currency. And so that's been kind of an odd one. And they're often referred to in APT groups as something Cobra. In this case, I used the hidden Cobra image I found there. Of course, most famously, they hacked Sony Pictures and some other things a few years ago. But they've gotten more and more brazen and more dangerous. And they're causing a lot of civilian disruption through the theft of cryptocurrencies and hacking of individual computers to use in DDoS attacks and things like that against their arch rivals in South Korea. On the right, you see, of course, Iran. The group I'm most interested in is often referred to as static kitten. So to my delight, there's no shortage of kitten photos on the internet. I was able to find a photo of a static kitten. But what's most up to date and interesting about Iran is they seem to be learning a little bit from North Korea and going, because they're also under sanction. And they've been kind of encouraging ransomware groups. So there was a group called SamSam that kind of went quiet in 2018. But they were operating out of Iran. We've more recently seen a whole bunch of different groups infecting large quantities of cloud services like Amazon, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and individual servers to mine cryptocurrency. And again, mining cryptocurrency is a way for them to get around sanctions. If they steal hard currency like US dollars, it's very difficult for them to spend it because where did they get it? And the global economy is locking them out. But if they steal cryptocurrency, they can convert it to any money, anywhere, anytime. And so they seem to be getting involved in encouraging some ransom groups and also in using cryptocurrency miners on hacked computers to generate Ethereum, Monero, and Bitcoin to profit from. They also have been targeting VPN vulnerabilities like the ones that have been in the news a lot the last year or two in Fortinet and Pulse Secure VPNs to steal credentials. The third group that can never be ignored, of course, is Russia. But Russia doesn't seem to be involved in the economic side of this so much. Russia is really interested in disrupting the West. And famously, of course, tampering with the US elections. And you see a picture of a power plant there in Ukraine. And they also have been making an example of their neighbors that can't be defended to sort of demonstrate some of their power. We believe the power blackouts in Ukraine in the over the Christmas December time period in 2018 and 2019 were likely demonstrating maybe to the United States and others that we have the power to do these things. Don't mess with us. So they're very active out there. They're typically not active at targeting the private sector so much, but of course, it is alleged that they were behind the SolarWinds attack in December of 2020, which clearly had a big impact on many of our organizations that use SolarWinds products. So while they may not be targeting us, their actions are having an impact that may cost us time and money. And lastly, of course, China. Bamboo Panda is one of the more interesting groups there that I pay attention to. And China is alleged to be behind the proxy logon attacks against Exchange servers in February and March of 2021. And what really concerns me about China is they're very long-term strategic, and they've been working very hard at supply chain attacks, which hence why we have the picture of the shipping containers and the airplane and the truck down there. You know, they're known for stealing intellectual property, but they're positioning their chess pieces on the board very carefully. They're putting themselves in all kinds of supply chains and all different types of industries around the world, so that if there is a trade conflict or there is some sort of situation where they may choose to make some disruption, they're incredibly well positioned within lots of different people's networks, and they will lie very quiet for a very long period of time in order to keep control of those assets for future use. And that long-term strategy is concerning, as it's very difficult to detect. So how are they going about these things these days? I referred to it earlier. I call them advanced persistent thieves these days. Certainly what we thought of as an APT when Mandy and FireEye coined that term nearly 10 years ago, the skills a nation state had back then are now in the black market. Those skills have trickled down to smart hackers that clearly, choose a different moral option than we do, as many of us are hackers. I consider myself a hacker. I'm pretty good at breaking things and taking them apart and figuring out how to abuse them. And that's what makes us good at our jobs. And of course, the people that have turned dark into the black markets are using them for ill will. But what's really interesting is they're getting very specialized now, no different than our organizations, right? Like if someone asked me to do legal work at Sophos or financial work, it would end in tears, right? Like nobody wants me balancing the books. I'm not good at that. The criminals have now taken that on, and as recently as 7 or 8 years ago, you could have a one-person hacking group that could literally kind of do it all. And that's gone away, where we're seeing this splintering into different pieces. And I'll talk about this in more detail in a few slides, but most importantly, the pieces we're seeing are, one, they're hiring professional translators so that the phishing emails you get have perfect English or Hindi or German. There's not grammatical errors because the criminal happens to be Russian. They'll just hire professional speakers to write those emails in native languages of their victims, which increases their efficacy at getting into organizations. We're also seeing most ransomware groups, for example, are they themselves not breaking into your network, right? If you become a victim of ransomware, it's highly likely that what we now are referring to as initial access brokers. In essence, one person finds the weakness in your security and breaks in, whether that's sending the phishing email or attacking the unpatched VPN server. They then sell you to the ransomware criminals. The ransomware criminals specialize in doing the ransomware. And even they themselves have divided into ransomware as a service, where the criminal who operates the ransomware on the computers and chooses which ones to infect is different than the organization that wrote the malware itself and operates the payment system and the decryption utility and the encryption keys and all the infrastructure that makes ransomware work. And then after they steal all your money, they then hire specialized black market money launderers to launder the cryptocurrency, right? They will use Bitcoin tumbling, as it's called, But they do much more than that. The money laundering is very sophisticated using cryptocurrencies and over-the-counter stock markets, particularly in Shanghai, in order to turn dirty money into clean money. So each group specializes. One group that writes the malware, another group knows how to use the attack tools, another group does the phishing emails, and a fourth group launders the money. And because of that sophistication, they're increasing their skills by focusing and specializing, which is unfortunately making them far more effective than we'd like them to be. And anything's available for a price on the dark web. These are some screenshots I took a few weeks ago of just different services offered by some hackers for hire on dark web forums, what kind of things they will sell, what type of services they will sell you for a price. And a big push now talking about how many of these forums will no longer accept Bitcoin. There's a lot of paranoia because Bitcoin is not, in fact, private. The whole point of Bitcoin is it's a public ledger that anyone who wants to download that ledger can see every Bitcoin amount transferred from one wallet to another wallet. And with enough sophistication, law enforcement's actually gotten quite good at tracking down that stolen currency and ultimately putting the people's hands in handcuffs. So some of these forums are now telling members starting on a date such as 1st of June or 1st of July, they're no longer going to allow Bitcoin transactions on their forums. They're requiring everyone to move to Monero. And Monero is a truly more anonymized private currency. And as a result, it's preferred for the inside transactions from criminal to criminal. So they'll still take Bitcoin from victims. But once it comes to hiring that criminal to do something else on their behalf, like write the malware for me or write the phishing email, they only deal with one another in Monero so they can maintain their privacy, so that if one of them is arrested, they are unable to identify their co-conspirators. So the TTPs, the tools, tactics, and procedures, what are they doing? How are they actually getting away with this stuff? What does an attack look like? 𝐴𝐼 is one of the biggest ransomware crews we're tracking right now. Don't confuse it with the beer. There is a Brazilian beer called 𝐴𝐼, and I talked to a friend of mine who's Brazilian, and apparently it's not a very good beer. But the people behind 𝐴𝐼 aren't very good people, so maybe they chose a good name. But this is an example of an attack our rapid response team at Sophos helped a victim with. And you can see this is sort of the playbook. They gain that initial foothold, and there's two primary ways almost all these attacks begin right now. As much as we worry about phishing, it's a very small percentage of it. Almost all of it right now is remote access, meaning log me in, VNC, Microsoft Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP, things that are there for your staff, especially during the pandemic, to gain remote access to their computers. Like, we all rely on a lot of remote access tools, especially during the pandemic. And the criminals are using that combined with phishing as a way to gain access to your networks, especially if you're not using multi-factor authentication. The other one in 2020, and yes.
Can I ask a quick question over here? So
sure.
Are they exploiting active vulnerabilities, or they are just brute forcing login credential on the RDP or other remote access tools?
So for remote access, they're generally not exploiting vulnerabilities. They're using either guest passwords or stolen passwords. There are forums selling these remote access. If you go on the dark web for somewhere between $5 and $50 US, you can buy remote access credentials that somebody else already figured out. And most of the time that's brute force or password reuse. Unfortunately, two of the victims we helped a couple weeks ago, the admins for the network, their passwords were still the same password they had used on LinkedIn 6 years ago when LinkedIn had their breach. And you'd hope that IT administrators would not do that, but they're human just like everyone else. So they are guessing those passwords or phishing them. It's not through an exploit for remote access.
Great, thank you.
The exploit is there. The exploits are almost entirely right now against VPNs. So unpatched FortiVPN, PulseSecure VPN are the other portion of it largely. It's not to say other things aren't exploited, but if we're looking at the whole picture of of a few hundred victims that we surveyed, almost every time it was remote access or a VPN.
Right. If you have to put in a percentage wise, what percentage do you see exploits are being used for vulnerabilities, as compared to phishing to get the credential? Is it like 99% phishing, 1% vulnerability exploitation, or what percentage are we talking about here?
I mean, obviously it changes based on what exploits are available and how well patched they are, because I would have said it was about 90% phishing, 10% vulnerabilities that were exploited in January. But then proxy log on the big exchange vulnerability happened, and that shifted it, right? So the criminals started massively taking advantage of that new vulnerability. So right now, I would say it's about 20% vulnerabilities and 80% stolen passwords. But that changes based on what vulnerabilities are available, right? So when long enough after a big vulnerability, it's almost 99% phishing, as you say. And then when a new vulnerability comes along and it shifts, and all of a sudden it's 30% vulnerabilities and 70% passwords, right?
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So once they get that initial foothold, they often, as I say, will sell that to a group like 𝐸𝐴NTI. And then when they do that, the first thing 𝐸𝐴NTI does almost always is use a Cobalt Strike beacon. Cobalt Strike is an offensive security tool used by penetration testers. And it's obviously stolen by the criminals and used against people instead. Then they pivot to using from that into Meterpreter, which is another legitimate tool. It's part of the Metasploit software package from Rapid7, one of the big security companies in the United States. They then use that to load another piece of Cobalt Strike. And I put in there, I know all of you aren't necessarily as technical as our researchers, but you may hear reports of quote, fileless malware. And that's what the reflective DLL loader means. And in essence, what this is it's loading the malicious code into the memory of the computer without ever writing a file. And that's really critical because it makes it very difficult for basic antivirus products, like Microsoft Defender, for example, is a difficult time detecting things like that in memory because it's not a file. Most traditional antivirus only looks at files. So the criminals have gotten adept at loading things directly into memory so there's no file. The other advantage for the criminal of not having a file is it means if you call us and ask for help and we say, hey, can you send us a sample of the malware that's attacked you? There is no sample. You don't have a file. You have nothing to share with Sophos Labs. We actually have to come in and help you do some forensics in order to recover the malicious code to tell you what happened. So that's a really sophisticated thing that they're doing. They heavily obfuscate stuff. In the case of 𝐸𝐴NTI, they double obfuscate it, which means basically scrambling it up and making it very difficult for researchers to decode. They take advantage of attacking other computers across your network using file sharing protocols. And they even in their case, they custom build the malware to have the encryption key built into it so it doesn't have to talk to the cloud. So even if you disconnect a computer from the network, it can still continue to encrypt it because it has the key embedded right inside of the malware. They most often these days, and 𝐸𝐴NTI always does, they steal the data before they encrypt it, and they're uploading it to common public uploading sites like Mega, 𝐾IM.com's file sharing service in New Zealand. And then ultimately, of course, if you don't pay, they threaten to publish that information on the dark web. So they really have two opportunities to extort you for money. It's not just that they want to sell you the encryption keys, but if you refuse because maybe you've got good backups, they will threaten to publish your information publicly to when they attack, as I said, the most common things we see are RDP, which is that logo you see up there at the top on the left, and VPN at the bottom. But in between, we've also seen a scattering of still coming in through email, like 𝐸𝐴NTI used to do. And there was a vulnerability known as 𝐷Trix, which was a vulnerability in the Citrix remote access products that came out at the end of 2019 that's still being actively exploited as well. Once they get on the network, they use what we call living off the land. They use your own tools against you. They don't bring malicious tools with them because they may get detected, right? If they bring some sort of malicious tool like Mimikatz that I have there at the top in the Lalbins category, Mimikatz is known to be there to steal people's passwords. So products like Sophos Antivirus and our competitors, we all detect that. So instead, they use legitimate tools like PowerShell, Nmap, tools from Microsoft, like their sysinternals tools that almost every administrator uses in their day-to-day work. And by using those tools to do a lot of the malicious things, they are much more difficult to detect. And it becomes much more of a behavioral approach to detecting them as opposed to, is this piece of code good or bad? we can detect malware pretty well, but if they're using an administrative tool, it means a human has to be involved to decide, is the human running that tool a good human or a bad human? And that changes how we defend ourselves. They're also masters of disrupting and confusing us these days. Veeam is a big backup provider. Many companies use Veeam to do their backups. And one of the convenient things with products like Veeam is it allows you to tie it into your Active Directory so that your administrators can log in using their Active Directory credentials to do backups and restores. The criminals, of course, if they've stolen your password during their attack, they log in as your administrator to Veeam and delete all your backups. And that's not a problem of Veeam's. It's not their fault. But the problem is, of course, they're designing things so that they can disable your legitimate administrator accounts, delete your back. They want to create the maximum amount of confusion when they hit the button to ask you for the ransom. So your team is stressed. They want you to be under stress so you feel pressure to pay that ransom. Of course, the M logo there is from Mega, where they're uploading the data. And in the end, of course, they've got a gun to your head. Pay us or the data gets it. And then they go off and launder their money after they steal it. So looking at defense to wrap up my half an hour with you this morning, there's a few things that really I think are important for organizations to remember. We need to prevent, but don't put all of your effort in prevention. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes I see happening with organizations that are ultimately victimized, or when I had the privilege of having in-person CISO forums with all of you, having lunch together around a round table when I'm traveling around the world, the focus is always on, well, how do I prevent it? How do I stop it? How do I keep them out? And of course, that's a natural thing. We all want to stop it, right? The problem is most organizations seem to have about 80 or 90% of their budget allocated to prevention, and only 10 or 20% of their budget allocated to detection and response. So when we do look at prevention, let's focus on the things that work. And obviously, firewalling and segregating our networks is critical. When they can get in and you have a network with no barriers between departments, between important functions, that means they can ransom the entire company at once. And that's much more dangerous to your organization. An example of something we do inside of Sophos, right? Like engineering does not need access to the files in finance, right? So we firewall the engineering department where our source code is from finance. And that benefits us two ways, right? It means engineers can't steal financial information. It means accountants can't steal source code. And it means if the criminals get into one, they can't get into the other. And so that's really important. And with all the hand washing advice around COVID, I think keeping a clean network that you understand is an important part of prevention, just as much as running security software like our antivirus and InterceptX products that are really good at analyzing the behavior of these criminals and locking them out and shutting them down. But it has to include not just those things. It has to be the patching. It has to be the turning off old equipment that's no longer in use. I mentioned the Exchange vulnerability in February. Most of the victims that we were helping, that we had detections in our software in our lab, that we knew customers were being impacted, most of them didn't know they had those Exchange servers. They had already moved to Office 365 or Google Mail, and no one ever turned off the Exchange server. And it was still sitting there and it hadn't gotten any fixes, and it gave the criminals a way into their network. So having a clean hygiene of the very basics, just the patching and getting rid of old systems, that kind of stuff is really, really important. And that document image, have a plan. Part of prevention is having a strategy for how you do this that is practiced and available when an emergency happens, so that you know what to do when the bad day comes. Because the last thing you want when the ransom note shows up is to not have a plan on how you're going to react to this emergency. And your country, like mine, where I live, you probably have earthquake plans for when there's an emergency earthquake in your region, or maybe flooding plans for when it floods. I live on the ocean, I live in the mountains, we have earthquakes and floods here. We have a plan for how our business is going to operate. That same plan can be adapted to be your plan for when ransomware attacks your network, because how you operate in a physical emergency is very similar to how you operate in a technical emergency. No different than everyone having to go home and not work in the office because of COVID. We also have to go home and not work in the office when we're worried about a flood or a tsunami or an earthquake. And so these plans can be really helpful for preparing us for cyber attacks, just like they are for protecting our physical safety. And detection and response deserves nearly as much attention as prevention. Personally, if I were a CISO, I would be allocating my budget more in the 60%, 40% range. I'd be spending 60% on trying to keep all the bad stuff out, making sure my technology is up to date, making sure my team has quality tools to do their jobs effectively. But I wouldn't neglect the other side of it, which is these are humans attacking us. They will bypass a technology no matter how good the technology is. When you see the broken window, and I put that there because if your building has a window and somebody smashed it in, an alarm goes off. In a real world scenario, you would send a security guard to go see what happened. You wouldn't ignore the fact that someone broke a window just because the alarm went off and told you it was broken. But we do see with antivirus, for example, you get an alert saying, I detected TrickBot on your computer and I deleted it. And then the administrator goes, oh, the antivirus worked. I don't need to do anything. The incident is complete. It already worked. But actually, it's the beginning of the incident. Just like the broken window, you need to go investigate, because if there's a human behind the keyboard and they got detected, they simply come back 5 minutes later with a different tool that you're not going to detect. And so that segmentation, which is my terrible idea of that lunch plate, you might have segment your food. You should segment your network to keep that data isolated and try to protect things from going from area to area if you do have a breach. The criminals often operate in off time zones. So if your business operates in certain time zones, primarily for your security team, you need to watch for those tools, those administrator tools being used in the wrong hours. So certainly at Sophos, we're a very UK focused company. So if we see things during Asia-Pac hours on our network, that's not a normal time we do maintenance at Sophos on our system. So we think that's suspicious. Companies need to determine what their baseline is and watch for legitimate dangerous tools being used at weird times, weekends, evenings. It takes a lot of time to encrypt a computer. So they need to do it when you're not watching. And so if there's activity when you're not watching, that's the activity that's a sign that someone may be in your network. And having staff trained on how to hunt, which is what the woman with the bow and arrow represents, threat hunting is really important. And depending on your size of your organization, that may not be possible to do yourself, but certainly, we offer that as a service at Sophos. Our partners offer that as a service through their services to their customers. And we find that mix is an effective thing, which is the day-to-day work, the patching and day-to-day work that needs to be done. Every organization should be able to handle on their own. And then when it's something more complicated and it needs to be looked at in more detail, then you escalate to a partner that can afford to have a team of security people that you may not be able to afford yourself to come in and consult with you on a short-term basis to help you make decisions about whether something's a threat and how to defend yourself better against it. And on that, I will wrap up my presentation and hand things back over either for, I'm not sure if we're going to do Q&A now or if we want to do Q&A at the end, but I hope you found that informative and helpful.
Yeah, great session, Chester. So let's hold on Q&A till the end, and let's go to Dr. Arun for his session. Over to you, Dr. Arun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vikas. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you once again, EliteCISOs, and such a privilege to be part of this panel and sharing my thoughts with you. I'm also thankful to Sophos, which not only cares to take care of the cybersecurity of the cyber world, but also by this leadership session brings a new perspective to securing our inner world. With that, I would like to share my presentation with you, and we'll get started there. This is going to be session 2. We did session 1. Those of you who were with us, I hope you remember iOS now stands for Inner Operating System. And those of you who are joining us first time, don't worry. We have the recap for you. These days, when our laptop and cell phone show low battery, we run towards the power socket as if our life depended on those devices. We want the latest upgrades on their operating system because we want all the latest features and we want to prevent those devices from getting hacked, as we were hearing chat today. But what about the most sophisticated hyper-converged infrastructure of all? As you would have guessed, we are talking about you, us, our mind, our inner operating system, as I say. See, we as human beings, we have one limitation. We come with fixed hardware. You cannot increase memory or other devices. You cannot change hardware. You cannot upgrade hardware. You cannot refresh hardware. But the beauty of human beings, us, is that we come with the most sophisticated operating system of all, the inner operating system. And this is what we discussed last time. Last time we also talked about the evolution of this inner operating system. And because of those evolutionary restrictions or challenges, how we nurture our inner operating system in a way that it is primarily designed for survival. And today, as I had promised last time, we are not going to only talk about threat perception. We are going to talk about how do we manage those threats to our inner operating system. First of all, I want to recognize that we all are going through tough times in the world and especially in India. I'm pretty sure all of us have somebody who is affected by COVID. So before I go further, my best wishes, my prayers for all those who are getting affected, or who have lost any friends or family members. I pray for their eternal peace and bliss. And those of us who are recovering or our family members are recovering, I pray that they will recover fast and completely soon. Even in these tough circumstances, what is the significance of having champions mindset? And I want to share this definition that I love. It is the ability to produce best possible response even to the worst of circumstances in life. And in addition to champions mindset, I use another term for it, a term that I have coined or I have lived for the last 10 years, happiness mindset. And this is what my journey is. Like many of you, I was engineering technology solutions for MNCs worldwide for almost 25 years. And then life changed for me. And now for the last 1 decade, I'm engineering happiness worldwide. And I wanted to put that concept of happiness in perspective of champions mindset, peak performance mindset, and how even in the circumstances that we are facing these days, this champions mindset or happiness mindset can help us. And once again, I would like you to focus on this definition. It is not about jumping up and down and feeling cheerful and being the cheerleader all the time, but happiness mindset means even when we are going through worst in our life circumstances, if we emotionally feel positive, you know that we will be able to make better decisions, which cannot change our past or circumstances that have happened to us. But by having champions mindset or happiness mindset, we create an opportunity that we can create a better tomorrow. So why this whole concept of champions mindset and happiness mindset? Let me ask you to retrospect or reflect. Why do we do what we do? Any human action, what is the root cause of motivation of that human action? And you will see that anything that we are doing, in fact, today you are listening to me. If I ask you why, you would say, this was an interesting topic and I wanted to just hear about it. Why? And then you'll say, because that will help me grow. It'll make my sphere of knowledge a little wider. And I would say, why? And you'll say, because that will make me a successful human being. Why? Because I can take care of my families better. Why? What do you mean by why? So that I can live a contented, peaceful life. Or I can live a happy life. Doesn't matter where we start. If you do 5 whys for your actions, we will see that most of human actions are ultimately motivated by that one thought, that somehow my action would lead to a happier tomorrow. That's that light at the end of the tunnel. And if we take that hope away from a human being, then I think life will reduce or lose its purpose. So I hope you agree with me that pursuit of happiness is the root cause of all human actions, at least for a substantial amount of our life. Because once you reach enlightenment, once you experience everything there is to experience in life, this pursuit of happiness then translates or transforms into happiness in pursuit. You are no more doing things for happiness, but you are doing things because you love what you are doing. So from pursuit of happiness, we move on to happiness in pursuit in phase 3 of our life. And happiness is so important. This mindset of keeping your emotions positive is very important, because again, you will agree with me, when we are happy, we are at our best, isn't it? And since the only way we can interact is chat box, I would request you to keep sharing your thoughts and responding to my questions in the chat box. I'm also looking at it now. But what I'm saying is, and thank you very much, Venkat says happiness is ultimate. Absolutely. So all our end goal of all our interaction, all our intent, all our actions is happiness. And when we are happy, we are at our best. And when we are at our best, we are happy. That means when we feel that we have been utilizing our creative potential to the fullest, it creates happiness or joyful environment for us. And when we live in a joyful environment, whatever state we are in, we'll be much better equipped to make better decisions, take better positive actions to come out of that state. I remember this saying that I recently read on WhatsApp. The quote is dedicated to Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda. Somebody asked Swami Vivekananda, what is worse than losing everything in your life? And Swami Vivekananda smiles and says, it is losing hope. Because it is hope with which you get courage and strength to regain a lot of things that you might have lost. In these trying times, let's keep our hope alive. And when we believe that our actions are going to result in joy and happiness, our hope is alive, and we are much better prepared to take more positive, assertive actions. Is this a concept only in the spiritual domain? No. A lot of research has happened on happiness now, including universities like Harvard and Stanford are running some of the most successful programs on happiness. And what they have found on this very elaborate project that Harvard University did on happiness advantage, that happiness is not just a esoteric concept of smiling, laughter, and all that. But when there is an environment in your home, in your mind, in your organization of joy and positivity, productivity goes up by 31%. Sales performance, a very quantitative measure, goes up by 37%. There's better dynamics within the teams. Creativity is high. Employee engagement is 10x. And yes, if you are positive, you are 57% best in making decision in whatever you do. Just a positive note that you give to your colleagues, your family members. Hey, you are doing very well today. Hey, you look great today. You look so excited about this job. And that one positivity can improve performance by 57%. That's what research says. So what I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share some of my learnings and bring into that domain of iOS in between and help you understand how to unlock our full potential, how to invoke champions mindset, how to prepare ourselves to do best, even in the most challenging of circumstances. Are you ready for that? Let's go on that journey. All of you are CIOs, CISOs, and you know that if we want to optimize a system, if we want to get maximum out of a system, we need to first understand what are the knobs that I can rotate to optimize or upgrade performance or our system. Now, for our performance, it is our inner operating system or iOS that needs to be fine-tuned so we can fine-tune it for maximum performance. But before we do that, we need to understand how inner operating system controls our behavior, because until we know that, we do not know the knobs. So let's see which are those knobs that you can tune, whether it is to increase the volume or reduce the volume, to gain maximum out of our inner operating system. So all of us are stuck in lockdowns in most of the states. And one of the challenging thing is our social life has reduced. So let me give you a virtual journey in something which will bring some smile on your face. I cannot offer you cocktail virtually, but I can share with you a recipe for even more potent of cocktails, which I call as happiness cocktails. These cocktails are neurotransmitters that our brain releases to reward us. And these cocktails are 1,000 times more potent than opioids. And one of our friends just talked about oxytocin. Yes, we are going to talk about that in a minute. but these are these happiness cocktails that you have control over, and I'm going to teach you how. And through these happiness cocktails, we can change our systems, our inner operating system's performance. So which are these 4 hormones or neurotransmitters that I want to talk about? First one is dopamine. It's called neurotransmitter of self-esteem. When we set goals and we achieve those goals, the joy that you feel, the elation that you experience, that is because dopamine is released in your brain. Now, dopamine is the same neurotransmitter which is forced to be released when people take drugs. So you can imagine why people take drugs. The challenge with dopamine is it is for reaching goals, and most of these goals are self-centric. When you set a goal and you achieve it, or somebody sets a goal for you, and when you are about to reach it, dopamine is released by your brain so you can reach that goal and improve your chances of survival. That's why when you're doing tough exercises, your gym instructor in army, the army instructor says, come on, let's go for it. Only 5 minutes left, only 100 meters left. And hearing that, somehow this superpower energy comes to you. It is because the brain is releasing dopamine. But unfortunately, just like we get addicted to the drugs, we get addicted to dopamine also. And that's why we burn ourselves off running behind those goals. So what is the solution? Dopamine is a motivational hormone. It promotes action, it promotes growth. So this is a pleasure hormone. When we achieve some short-term benefits, dopamine is released and brain says, hey, it is going to increase your chances of survival. That's why when you're dieting and you look at this cake, which is full of calories, or pizza, you feel cravings because brain is saying, eat it. I'm releasing dopamine because I want you to survive. There might be no food later. So dopamine is our pleasure hormone. I can tell you a story and secrete these neurotransmitters in your brain. You can also see how you can change your own behavior, how you can self-motivate yourself using these happiness cocktails. The second one, my favorite, serotonin. It is actually attributed that our long-term happiness is because of serotonin is released in our brain. Where dopamine is sukh or pleasure neurotransmitter, serotonin is happiness or anand neurotransmitter. Serotonin is released when we find ourselves to be of meaningfulness, when we feel that there is a significance of our life in the world. When we do something without expecting anything back, serotonin is released. When we help others, serotonin is released. The third hormone or neurotransmitter we need to know about to develop champion's mindset is oxytocin, like somebody said. It is the neurotransmitter of relationship. When we smile at each other, oxytocin is released. The moment oxytocin is released, your brain is telling you, you better be close with that person because your chances of survival and growth and thriving are better when you are with this person because you are smiling together, you're laughing together, you are holding hands together, you are hugging each other. This is the neurotransmitter of relationship, love, empathy. And finally, exercise, laughter, when you do hiking, etc., releases endorphin, which is a natural painkiller. So when 𝐬𝐵𝐺𝐺 gave us all a challenge, stand. And when you're taking that challenge, you're getting dopamine release because you're saying, I was given a challenge and I'm achieving it. And because now you are being active, you're probably moving a little bit more than sitting on the chair, you're also getting endorphins, and that make you feel good because it's a natural painkiller. We also have this fifth hormone, which is also very important because sometimes people ask you, what is the purpose of brake? And we say brake is to slow down speed. No, brake also has a very important purpose. It is because of brake only that we can accelerate. If we did not have brake, we will not be able to accelerate. And that neurotransmitter is called cortisol. It's a hormone. And cortisol stops us from going the harm's way. So these 5 are those knobs turning which you can change your life. I hope in this brief span of time that we have with each other, I was able to give you some understanding idea of it. This is how these neurotransmitters look like in a visual form. And I'm pretty sure you're getting tempted now. And you're going to look for your cupboards in the evening today. But dopamine, neurotransmitter of achievement, serotonin of significance, oxytocin of relationship, and endorphin of activities. So what I want you to take away, I want to give you these 3 takeaways, which I hope you'll apply in your own life to make your life joyful. And when you are joyful, when we are happy, we are at our best. I want to leave you with these 3 G's of happiness. First G stands for growth. Second G stands for giving. Third G stands for gratitude. Growth, giving, gratitude. And these three, they bring happiness. And I'll share with you how. First one is growth. First one is growth. See, 90% of our daily thoughts are the same as they were day before. By the time you are 35 years of age, 90% of our thoughts are same that we had yesterday. Now, problem with that is same thoughts means we will have same choices that we'll make. Same choices mean our behavior will be the same. Same behavior means our experiences of world would be the same every day, and same experiences will lead to same emotions, and same emotions will result in same thought. And you can see we'll be in a cycle of no growth. And if that happens, what happens is you become stagnant. And I read this very beautiful quote. When we learn, we grow. Otherwise, we age. That's true for an individual as well as for an organization. When we learn, we grow. Otherwise, we merely age. So what do we do then? What do we do then? If 90% of our thoughts are same, we need to make some change. Otherwise, we'll be today what we were yesterday, and life will go on. That means we will have a drain on our happiness factory. So what do? If we keep doing the same old things, we'll receive the same old results. So we need to make a change. How do we make a change? Let me tell you first secret, growth secret, how we can change our destiny. I would invite you to think, reflect on this. Our personality is how we think, how we feel, how we act, because they are related. How we think is how we feel is how we act. When you are happy, you go home, your child commits a mistake, also you smile and you're not angry. When you are not happy, unhappy, even at work, you go home, your child does something very innocent, also you get angry. That means what you think is how you feel, and how you feel decides how you are going to act on different things of life. So ladies and gentlemen, it is your personality that defines you. And by the way, it is your personality that also defines your personal reality, your outcomes in life. So if we want to change our personal reality, if you're not happy with the way things are in your life, whether it's your relationship, your job, your interaction with people, to change that personal reality, we have to change our personality. And for that, we have to learn, we have to grow, we have to be curious, we have to be observant, and we have to be reflective, introspective. This is the first key I want to share of maximizing iOS performance with you. The second G stands for gratefulness. Gratitude or attitude of gratitude is very, very important. Because when I wake up in the morning, I look out, and the fact that I am above ground and not below ground is good enough reason for me to feel the gratitude. Once in a program, I was interacting with one Swamiji. And I asked him, Swamiji, how are you doing? And he said, I'm feeling on top of the world. Next day again, I again asked, Swamiji, how are you feeling? And he says, I feel on top of the world. Third day again, and I said, that's fake now, Swamiji. 3 days in a row, how can you feel on top of the world? And he smiled and says, why not? Tell me, where is the world? I said, world is here. And he says, where am I? I said, you are standing on it. He said, that's why I say I feel on top of the world. So as long as I'm not below ground, I feel I'm on top of the world. And if this is the way you start your day, the day will change for you. Because how we think, last session we said, brain does not know the difference between thinking and reality. Our imaginations create reality. And if you're saying it's going to be a gloomy day today, it's very cloudy and all that, that's how the day is going to turn out. But if you're thinking grateful about the day and you're saying, wow, it's a wonderful day, I'm going to make best use out of it, it would be a lovely day. You know Mullah Nasruddin and their stories. Somebody asked Mullah Nasruddin, what kind of day you like? And he says, I like the way the day is today. He says, how's that? What would it be tomorrow? He says, again, I would like the kind of day it's going to be tomorrow. He said, what do you mean? Mullah Nasruddin smiles and says, I have come to realize that I have no control over how the day is going to be. So I would rather be happy with the kind of day it is, because that makes me feel joyful and I can live my day more joyfully, more productively. So the second G is being grateful, or attitude of gratitude. Let's do one exercise, because I don't want it to be just technical, very theoretical session. I would like you to sit straight on your chair, take a deep, or like you are standing, if you're standing, just stand, take a deep breath, exhale through your mouth. whatever way you evaluate your happiness, I would like you to evaluate yourself on a scale 1 to 10. How happy do you feel on a scale 1 to 10? Pick a number and please type it in the chat. How happy do you feel today? 1 means on the ground, totally perished, and 10 on top of the world. So keep some scope. Don't just say 10 yet because we have to do some exercise. But type that number. Let me know how you are feeling today. Let's see what you're saying in chat. You're saying 7, 6, 9, great, 6, wonderful. Keep that thought in your mind. How do you feel today? Now, what I want you to do, close your eyes. Don't worry, just for 1 minute. Close your eyes. Think of the most memorable, extremely positive event that you can think of in your life. What is one of the most memorable, positive event so far in your life? For example, for me, it was birth of my child. Her name is, I will not tell you the name yet. I'll tell you the story first. My baby was born. We didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, so we never thought of names. And when the doctor came out, I was waiting outside the operation theater. And doctor comes and says, who is Dr. Bhardwaj? I said, I happen to be Arun Bhardwaj. And she says, this is your baby. You have a baby girl. And then I said, okay. And she says, why? You don't want to hold her in your hand? This is my first child. I have only one daughter. I held her in my hands and suddenly tears started coming off my eyes. I was just crying there without crying. And if you talk to my daughter, she will tell you, she's 9 years old now, and she'll very proudly tell you, my name was never kept. It came out of my dad's heart. Because when he held me first time, he had tears of joy, and he named me Joy. Yes, my daughter's name is Joy Bhardwaj. I would like you to think of the positive memory, extremely positive memory, the most memorable moment of your life. I would like you to go into details of it. Think of it. Imagine. Close your eyes. How was it sounding around? What was the smell like? How did it feel? What are the memories? What are the pictures that you have captured? What are the sounds that you have captured? I'm going to give you 15-20 seconds to relive that experience in your thoughts. Let's do it for 15 seconds. Go into details. I hope you're reliving that moment. I hope you're enjoying that moment and there is a smile on your face. Put a smile on your face as you're thinking about it. Okay, gradually open your eyes because we have limited time, so I'm trying to just give you a short and brief and sweet experience. Now that you have gone into the details, open your eyes. I would request you to again rate yourself on your scale of happiness that you did before. On a scale 1 to 10, how do you feel now? How do you feel now? Wonderful. People are feeling 11. You made my day. I hope it was as joyful for you also. So even if you have felt marginally better, say yes on the chat. Yes. Even if you felt marginally better. Amazing. Amazing. I'm pretty sure when I started speaking, you were thinking, Arun, you're going to teach us happiness? No, I'm just trying to teach us how to nurture dimensions of your life and craft, create, nurture moment of happinesses. And look at this, just 1 minute of gratitude to that moment, savoring that moment, and you're already feeling positive. Now tell me, if you are thinking of something right now, if you face a challenge right now, would you be better equipped right now, the moment, the mindset that you have right now? Would you be better equipped to handle even toughest of life challenges right now? If answer is yes, take this learning back home, share it with your families as well. So growth and gratitude, these two are amazing. The final G is giving. People ask me, Arun, now that you have done PhD on happiness, tell us some quick, easy way of feeling happy. And I always tell, easiest way of experience happiness, easiest way of experiencing serotonin effect is by doing something for someone without expecting anything back. But if you want even greater level of happiness, I would invite you to listen to this thought. Do something for someone who for sure cannot do anything back for you. And then you will experience a joy that you would have never experienced. I would like you to apply this in your life and then write an email to me and let me know how you felt. Did it work or not? because I don't want this to be just a plain, simple, thought-based session. What I'm sharing with you is not just best practices, it's my life experiencing and my interaction with more than 100,000 people. I hope they will also touch your heart and you will also feel positive. Now, is this something which is only in conversations? No. Let me share one fantastic example of how creating moments of happiness can infuse life at the worst of circumstances. Let's see this. This is an ICU. This is happening in every moment is a real lifetime, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy every moment. And if patients in ICU can feel better just by infusing that joy, happiness, laughter, just imagine what we can do in our life. Life is simple. Question is, are you happy? If yes, keep dancing. If no, start dancing. Don't wait for magic to happen. I want to leave you with one final story. Once a person had a farm next to beach, and that place used to have a lot of tornadoes. And this person was looking for a manager who can secure his farm, his estate. He sent a newspaper advertisement saying that I need somebody who can take care of my estate, which is right next to the beach. It's a tornado-prone area, hurricane-prone area. Nobody responded. Only one person responded. He said, my only condition is I sleep when the wind blows. This man, owner of the farm, says, what is this? But since nobody else had applied, he said, okay, let's get this guy. So he says, fine, I don't know what you said, but whatever it is, fine, I hire you. Take care of my farm. So this man sees, the owner sees that this new manager is very busy. It's sunny day. There's everything all right, but this man is running around like chicken without head. Very busy, very busy. And this man is very curious, what is this? And finally that fateful day came. It was a hurricane time. And he's trying to call this manager, and manager is never to be found, nowhere to be found. And this owner, frantic, thinking his farm is going to get destroyed, goes into that farm manager's house and sees that manager is sleeping, shakes him off and wakes him and says, what are you doing? Don't you know hurricane has come? Man says, I told you, I sleep when the wind blows. Owner is mad. He runs around, and the moment he goes out to secure his farm, what he sees is everything is neatly protected. His coop of chickens is properly covered. Weights are being put. His farm, his barn, everything is very nicely covered and protected. And hurricane did not do anything. Owner comes and says, thank you to that manager. Manager smiles and says, I told you, I sleep. I sleep when the wind blows. I can sleep when the wind blows because I prepare well. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful session. For me, it is an opportunity to connect with all of you. But what a wonderful session in which not only you learned how to protect upfront your cyber network, your computer, your office's IT infrastructure. So when the wind blows, you don't have to be worried and running around chicken without head. You are able to sleep when the wind blows, and Sophos is there to help you. And I hope I was able to leave you with some golden nuggets that will help you protect your mental well-being and help you sleep when the wind blows, because you would be much better prepared with that positive mindset to handle worst of your circumstances in life. It is never, never late. Today is the first day of rest of your life. I hope you'll start living every moment of your life starting from today. Thank you very much. Mission in life is leaving people happier than I found them. I hope I was able to do that with you today. If you have any question, comment, suggestions, or you would like to connect with me, very simple. A stands for where you are. B stands for where you want to be. If you want to reach me, you have to run between A and B. So my email, very simple to remember, arunb@arunb.com. Ladies and gentlemen, my website is arunb.com. Thanks to EliteCISO, and thanks to Sophos for bringing me on this platform. And thanks to all of you for your patient and lovely hearing. I wish all of you a very happy, prosperous, peaceful life. And I also pray that your businesses will grow and thrive. Thank you very much, Vikas. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Arun sir. Excellent session. Take a bow, sir. Amazing session. We are all thrilled. We are all thrilled. Thanks a lot. We are kind of running little late. It's 12:10, so I will still let couple of questions be asked, and then we will start with the quiz. So Mehul bhai, can you unmute couple of folks, those who have raised their hands? Let's take couple of questions, and then we will get to the quiz.
Yeah, I have given them the permission to unmute themselves now. So those who have raised the hand, yeah. Sir, you are on mute.
Sorry, I was saying, Vinodji, you are unmuted. If you have a question, go ahead now. If not, next is Ramaji. Ramaji, go ahead, joining us from beautiful city of Udaipur, city of lakes. If not Ramaji, then I'll go to Mumbai to Mr. Manoj. Manojji, go ahead, please. Okay, I think they
and one more thing, Vikas, just a minute. If you guys are facing any issue, you can just put in a chat actually.
No, I think they were just excited. They were just excited with the session and they were just raising their hands. So I think that was the case. Okay, so
I think one more guy, Mr. Sanjay, is there. Yeah.
Okay, let's have at least one question. Sanjay ji, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to know, do we really require any reason for the happiness? Because reason may disappear anytime. So that's why my philosophy is you should be happy always, whether it is good or bad. You try to make yourself always happy, because I don't want that any reason has to be there for the happiness.
But if you get a glass of good wine, won't you be more happy? But I will let Arun.
I don't drink. I don't drink.
Wonderful. Sanjay ji, see, I have been listening to all these best practices all my life. Because everybody has been telling me, happiness is within you. Happiness within you. You can just, the question was, it is within me, but I do not know how to access. So the program that I have designed or created, Engineering Happiness, it is for those not yet enlightened souls like me, who do not know happiness is within me. We also know the best practices that we should be happy all the time, but we do not know how. So this is that how part. That's why I said that there are 3 stages of life. First stage, when we are born, children, we are divine. A child which is like 3, 4, 5 years old, they don't need a reason to be happy. They are happy all the time. Even if you scold them, after 2 minutes, they are happy again. That is our natural state. That is divinity within us. But then हमको बंदा बना दिया जाता है. वो बच्चे से हमें बंदा बना दिया जाता है. और उसके बाद में we start seeking pleasures. So first phase of life is living in joy. Not living for joy. Living in joy. Then second phase come when we are living for joy. आप बताइए, आप क्या नहीं चाहते कि मुझे भी सैलरी हाइक चाहिए, मेरा भी जरा टाइटल बढ़ा दिया जाए, और जब वो होता है तो आपको अच्छा लगता है. So we start living for joy. That means the second phase of life starts when it is about pursuit of happiness. उसी को गृहस्थ आश्रम भी कहते हैं, which is okay, why not? And then we reach a stage where I reached probably 5 years ago, जहाँ पे हम कहते हैं, यार, I have success in life, but what is significance of my life? So instead of success, we start thinking of significance. And then I think the third phase starts. So from living in joy, being a child, the majority of our Grihastha Ashram goes into living for joy or pursuit of happiness. And then, like what you have realized probably now, we realize that we have to craft moments of joy. We have to believe that purpose of life is living in joy. And that's what I say is third stage, which is not pursuit of happiness, but happiness in pursuit. Way to happiness is happiness on the way. But we have to go through these stages of pursuit of happiness and then start doing happiness in pursuit. And if I translate that into professional ground, it is either love what you do or start loving what you are doing. Back to you, Vikas. I hope I answered your question. Actually, it was more of a comment.
Thank you, Arunji.
Absolutely.
It is 12:15, guys. I don't think we can take more questions. It's already 12:15, as I said. So let's get started with the Kahoot quiz. Naveenji, over to you.
Thank you, Vikasji. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab and chat, for the wonderful session. And thanks to all audience. Let me introduce myself. I am Naveen Grover. I'm the zonal head for North India in Sophos. So thank you very much for joining on this platform. I hope you guys have enjoyed the wonderful session with the balanced approach of the technology and the leadership and the happiness. And so this time is for Kahoot quiz, and I am sure all the questions will be from syllabus only, from Dr. Bhardwaj and chat. So I think let's share the screen, I think.
And
Yes.
also give permission to everyone to turn on their webcam. We will take a selfie today, take a screen grab today.
Sir, this is a like a webinar, so I think I cannot give the permission. I need to make them a panelist if they need to speak or if they need to show their on the video cam. So I'm so sorry. If it is a Zoom meeting, then yeah. So everyone is aware about Kahoot quiz. Vikash, do you just want to explain how it works or something like this, or can I?
Not really. I think we can get started. So Naveen bhai will run the commentary.
I think you just take out your mobile phone or any smart device, mobile phone, tablet, and just open any internet browser and type it kahoot.it, KAHOOT.it, and it will ask your game pin, and game pin is 7152163. And I can see many participants has been enrolled already. I can see 31 as of now.
Chat, initial questions will be from your sessions and then Arunji. So please feel free to elaborate your answers when the question has been asked. So no worries at all. Please feel free to participate in the.
Yeah.
One of my questions is a trick question, and then I didn't cover it in the session. So we'll see who's super up on there.
Maybe can you post the game pin on the chat window? A couple of folks are asking for that.
Sure, I can do this.
And there were a couple questions in chat I wasn't able to get to. If anyone, I'll put my email address in the chat window. Feel free to reach out to me. There were some good questions that we were unable to address in the session. So I've posted my email address into the chat as well. So.
I'm very excited to see. I think more than 125% has already joined the game.
Great. Because you just give me a heads up when I can click on start. We have 180 plus attendees.
Start now. We are late.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So from Sophos, we have a prize for top 5 winners who will be coming on this quiz. Winners. Let's start with the first question. Naveenji, you can have the comment.
So first question of the day for Kahoot is from chat presentation. What is the mostly likely entry point for the ransomware attackers? And the options are dark web brokers, RDP, unpatched servers, and the phishing. I'm expecting 100%. Mr. 𝐕H𝘃𝐚𝐿𝐼, you have to give your answers on Kahoot
mobile
platform.
Phone. Yeah.
Oh my God. Only 8% right answer.
Chat, quickly, you want to verify the answer? Chat.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, brokers are the way they get in. The ransomware attackers don't break into your network directly. They're buying you from someone who's already broken in using another method. The most common method would have been RDP behind that, and then followed by phishing and unpatched servers. Well, phishing and RDP is a confusing one, but dark web brokers was the answer.
Great.
So the podium report is Mr. Sridhar is leading the podium, and followed by Mr. PK, Mr. 𝐬𝐿𝐼, and Madhusudan, Mr. 𝐕H𝑃𝐺𝐺𝐼. And the next question, Mehul, is again a tricky one. Which nation state has focused its effort of stealing cryptocurrency? Its options are Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia. And the answer was covered in chat presentation. I heard that. And the right answer is North Korea. I think it was in initial slides only. And the slide podium board has also changed. Mr. Madhusudan has upgraded to #1 position, then followed by Mr. Sagar, Mr. Rohit Rain, and Mr. Kaustubh. Don't worry, guys. We have 7 questions. You still have chance to win that. Which ransomware group retired in Q3 2020 Q3 𝐷𝐸𝐸𝐚 maize. It was also the part of chat's presentation. Chat, if you want to make any comment.
No, I didn't actually cover who retired in my presentation. So this was the trick question. But the most number of people got it. Oh, that's fantastic. 𝐬𝐻 was the first group to start stealing data and encrypting people, and they retired apparently, made over $100 million US.
So Mr. Madhusudan don't want to leave the podium. He's still on number 1 position, followed by Mr. Prakash, Mr. Kosu. Yeah, Mehul, next one, please. Yeah, this is from Mr. Dr. Bhardwaj presentation. As per Dr. Bhardwaj, which system needs to be secure to live a happier life? And he, I think more than 15 times he repeated that in his presentation. And I'm expecting 100% right answer from the audience. And the answer is exactly on the expectation, inner operating system. Oh, change happened in the podium board. Next one, Mehul. So as per Dr. Bhardwaj presentation, what our personality defines, how we think, how we behave, our personal reality, or how we feel. And the answer is exactly right, our personal reality. Dr. Bhardwaj, if you want to make any commentary over that.
Yes, yes. So this was a trick question. You had to pick the best possible answer. Our personality defines our personal reality. I want you to take that as a golden nugget from this presentation, that if you want to change how things, circumstances are in your life, then we have to first change how we think, how we feel, how we act. And all this combined creates our personality that defines our personal reality.
Thank you. And the same way, one right answer can change the podium right now. Like Mr. AC has changed. He's on fire now and then leading the podium, followed by Mr. Arvind and Mr. Kautuv. Next one, please. Second last question of the day. When we are happy, when we dash, we celebrate, we are at our best, we laugh, we are stressed. I think I heard that many times in the presentation. I'm again expecting more than 100% persons to be right over there. Exactly 101.
Great.
We are when we are at our best. Thank you, Mehul. And the last question of the day, and the last chance to win the prize. Which is the happiness chemical? Which is the happiness chemical? I think it was interesting slide. Many of us relate with the cocktail, mocktail, and the wine glasses and all. So, yeah. Oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin, and dopamine. And the right answer is blue and serotonin.
Yes,
oh,
although
Lord, it's surprising. Seriously surprising.
All of them are related with experience of joy, happiness. But what I was describing to you, dopamine is a pleasure chemical, and serotonin is long-term happiness neurotransmitter, feeling of significance.
I think it was very clearly explained by Mr. Dr. Bhardwaj. When we achieve something, then dopamine then gets released from the body and it's a happiness for it. And the third position is for Mr. AC. I don't know the full name. Sorry, you have not mentioned. Second by BSK, and the third one and the leading podium man is Mr. Madhusudan. Congratulations. Congratulations, all of you. Congratulations, winners. I think 𝐬𝐵PHICASji.
Yep, great. Congrats, everyone. Thank you.
I think you can correlate the short form of the name BSK and all, and we will share the entire list of winners to you.
Sure. Sounds good. Sounds good. So guys, quickly, if you want to download the participation certificate, go to EliteCISOs.in website, not .com. Go to EliteCISOs.in. Go to events, go to upcoming events, click on CP certificate. If you click on it, you will get to a page where you will have to fill your email address, your full name, and the password to download the certificate today is endorphin. right? Endorphin is generated for when you get
Wow.
active, right? When you spend active lifestyle, you will get a lot of endorphin, right? So the password is endorphin. And if you want more endorphin, you can go to the link that I've posted in the chat window over here. So on Sunday, we are going to complete 150 days of fitness. So as you know, 𝐓𝐶ISO has a fitness group, very active fitness group. And most of the members are going to complete 150 days of fitness. So Dr. Arun, there's a lot of endorphin in our group, right? In the 𝐓𝐶ISO fitness group. So on Sunday, we are going to do this 1 hour yoga session. So if you guys want to join, click on that link and then register, and I will add you in a separate group, which is our fitness group. And then you can join our yoga sessions, right? Specifically, this one is for Sunday, but we have regular sessions as well. With that everybody is kind of waiting now, the Wheel of Fortune. So as I said, there are going to be 2 Wheel of Fortune. This one is with all the participants. So if you see, we have about 253 entries over here. So everybody who registered, we filtered out their Gmail and Yahoo kind of email IDs. We filtered those. So for this Wheel of Fortune, we only keep official email ID. So everyone who registered with their official email ID, their name and company name is here. We will run it once. And then we have another Wheel of Fortune as well today. This one is specifically for Mumbai group, right? So everyone from Mumbai who registered, that's the second wheel of spin that we will do today. Okay, so I'm going to the first one and then I'm going to spin it. If your name comes, you will have to turn on your webcam. Maybe Mehul bhai, you can give them permission, make them panelists. They will come on camera. They will show their passport and Aadhaar card to verify that that's what they claim that they are they. So I'm going to run it once now. Let's see who the winner is going to be.
But those Mumbai guys are in this wheel also.
So Jitendra Panchalji, I'm sure he's there. So can you go to the chat, Jitendraji, and say yes, and then give him permission as well to turn on the cam? I don't see anything in the chat as yet. Do I? Jitendra Panchalji, are you there? If you are there, go to the chat and type yes. No, I don't think you are there. So I'm going to run it one more time.
I give him the permission of as a panelist.
I think he has Rajesh has confirmed on the chat. 𝐓𝐶𝐫𝐿.
Oh, yes, confirmed. I don't see. Let me check. So chat, Rajesh Panchalji, yeah, you are there. Perfect, perfect. Go to the, turn on your webcam, sir. I don't see you. So we will figure that out meanwhile. Okay, so this one, Rajendra Panchalji, you are the winner. Congratulations. I am moving to the next one now, which is just for Mumbai group. Okay, this one, only Mumbai folks are there. So let me run it and hopefully you are attending as well and not just registering. So let's see. Sridhar Sahu from MAQ Software. Sridharji, are you there? If yes, go to the chat and then, oh, wonderful, you are there. Congratulations. So both of the Alexas are gone. Send me a DM with your address and we will ship it to you. With that, we come to the end of the session. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks Chester, thanks Dr. Arun, and thanks Sophos team. Thanks a lot. See you next week. So if you go to the website to get your certificate, you will see that next week we have a session with Archer. Same time, 11 o'clock Thursday. Go ahead and register for it. And we will see you next week then. Great. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Be safe.